that they are promising. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to comment on the budget.
Honorable members, order. I proceed to give the floor to Honorable Azika Dongo. Honorable Azika Dongo.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is the morning show, Good Morning Africa, live here on Pan-African Television. This is the newspaper review segment of the show, and we are live from our studios here, number 48, Swanika Street in Abelempe. Also in 46 South African countries, you can watch us via satellite in some parts of Europe and South America as well. And then on the internet, you can join us at www.facebook.com/Pan-African Television. Let me once again run you through the topics that we have tabled for today's conversation. Then I proceed to introduce my guests. This morning we are going back to South Africa. Story says South Africa ambassador no longer welcome in the United States. Rubio says free senior high school, allow people who can afford to pay. Otumfuo urges government, health must always be a priority. Ayagba supports Afenyo Markins Hospital proposal. And finally, Anas wins $18 million against Kennedy Japan in excess county defamation case. And so the stories you have tabled for today's discussion, yes, and I'll be more than pleased to hear from you. Send me your messages via text, via WhatsApp, 055-9919-802, 055-9919-802. Also, you can also join us on Facebook and then share, like, comment, share particularly so that others can also get to view today's show and also contribute to it. I've been joined this morning by Dr. Larry Esilfi. Doc, good morning. Ever since you finally got hands on your PhD, I've not had the opportunity to host you. I want to congratulate you once again.
Thank you.
Right. I've met Lawyer Jofa. We've spoken as to whether I've hosted him on the show.
I have.
Yeah.
Oh, at least once.
Yeah. That's why. If it were more than once, I would have remembered. Yeah. But Council, good morning.
Good morning.
And once again, for the umpteenth time, congratulations on your victory.
Thank you so much.
It's not easy snatching that the ND seat.
Good morning to Prof. Let me also add my words of congratulations on your new status.
Yes,
as
doctor.
Thank you. And then good morning to the good people of Yindi as well.
Great. Let's start today's conversation. Let's start a discussion. A lot of stories making the rounds. The most topical of them this morning, I'm sure, would be what transpired in Essex County, the United States, as far as that defamation suit against Kennedy Japan is concerned. But let's start on the African front. Let's look at happenings in South Africa. We've been told that South Africa is no longer welcome, or their ambassador is no longer welcome in the United States. It appears that there's been some diplomatic row between the South African government and the United States, to the very extent that the U.S. Secretary of State posted on X, formerly known as Twitter, a few days ago, that the South African ambassador to the United States is a Trump hater. I mean, those were his words, that he's a racist, he's a Trump hater, and he is no longer welcome, in the United States. We know what the position of South Africa has been, especially when it comes to some decisions of the United States. One of the reasons why the American government is not in support of South Africa is that decision to to take that happening in the Gaza Strip, to court, the International Court of Justice. I mean, we know where US's ties are in terms of that, in terms of that war particularly. It is one of the reasons for which they are no longer welcoming South Africa. Then Again, we also know that they've decided to cut some aid to them. There's some $600 million I understand that they've been receiving annually to fight some diseases, including HIV, which they are no longer, or they will no longer be sending to, you know, the South African government. And so this has been the problem. But South Africa has said the decision of the United States to expel Ambassador Ibrahim Rasool is regrettable, but the country remains committed to building a mutually beneficial relationship with Washington. South Africa's presidency urged all relevant and impacted stakeholders to maintain the established diplomatic decorum in their engagement with the matter. In a statement issued on Saturday morning, just hours after U.S. State Secretary Marco Rubio called Rasool a race-baiting politician who hates the U.S. and President Donald Trump. Rubio wrote on X that Rasool was no longer welcome in our great country, adding, "We have nothing to discuss with him, and so he's considered persona non grata." Rubio linked his remarks to an article by the right-wing media outlet Breitbart, wherein Rasool is quoted as saying Trump mobilized the supremacist instinct and white victimhood as a dog whistle during the 2024 election. But South African political analyst Sandile Swana told Al Jazeera that the core of the dispute was Pretoria's decision to form a genocide case at the International Court of Justice against Israel, a close U.S. ally, over its war on Gaza. In February, Rasool, an anti-apartheid campaigner, told the Zitio News that what South Africans experienced during apartheid rule is on steroids in Palestine. It means the worst form of it is happening in Palestine. Moreover, Swana explained that in the fight against apartheid, the U.S. supported the apartheid regime. So Rasool continues to point out the behavior of the United States, even now, is to support apartheid and genocide. There's been also issues of land policy and the involvement of the richest man in the world, Elon Musk, you know, in that regard. But let's begin the conversation. I'll start with you, Lawyer Joffa, on this one. Let's hear from you, sir.
Well, thank you so much. And once again, good morning to your cherished viewers, and good morning to your good self, and a very good morning to Kwesi Pratt as well. Well, thanks for having me once again. The issue of South Africa of late being in such a relationship with the U.S., I think Trump's coming has worsened things. If you look at it, when Trump first resumed, the issue was more to do with the land matters, where Trump, in his usual way of doing things, said that South Africa had introduced a new policy, if you like, a new law, which to the Americans, or to his view and that of his closest friend now, Elon Musk, it was meant to deprive the white minority in South Africa of their entitlement to land. So the first action was to kind of withhold aid that was supposed to have gone to South Africa, just by way of punishing them and then pushing them to go back or reverse their stance or the law they had passed. Well, South Africa did not take it lightly. They also said no, they were a nation in their own right, and that they had the power to make certain decisions. So you realize that they stood to their grounds and said that no, as far as they are concerned, that law came to, as it were, accentuate the post-apartheid system. You know, U.S. and South Africa, the apartheid regime was one regime that really sowed the seed for this kind of issues we have today. Because U.S. has always been for the apartheid. They never saw anything wrong with it. And then the black world saw everything wrong with apartheid. And so it didn't start today. It started way back then, and then it got into its height during Trump's taking over the reign of governance. And then the latest being the remarks made by Ibrahim Rasool. I honestly think Trump has done a lot of things that almost everyone is talking about. many being negative and some being positive. But Rasul being a diplomat, as for me, my opinion is that no matter how strong your reservations are, once you are there as a diplomat, you are now serving an entire country. Your comments have to be so guided, regardless of your personal opinion. You are no longer acting in your personal capacity. You are now acting as the rep of a whole country called South Africa. And so you should be mindful of the comments you make. I have no qualms with him having strong positions against Trump's actions so far. But going out to talk about it, and to the extent that it was said in public, to me, I also have my own reservation. I think he didn't act as a diplomat. I think he went overboard, and that he could have been a bit measured, and then he could just limit it to his personal discussions with people and not necessarily on such public platforms. Be that as it may, you would never expect Trump administration to respond accurately. Even within USA, Trump is not taking it lightly, even with his own judges. Just yesterday, you heard him talking about the fact that there should be impeachment proceedings against a judge who has ruled against his deportation orders. This is something even the U.S. Chief Justice of the Supreme Court came out to say that impeachment proceedings are not the way to go when judgments do not go your way. There are always review processes in every judgment. And even in Ghana here, we have such processes. Once a judge makes a decision that you think does not go your way, you go back sometime on appeal, depending on where it is, and then or you go for review. But Trump will not take none of that. He said he has instructed his people at the Senate and Congress to go ahead and commence impeachment proceedings against the judge for what he calls a slap in the face of his administration. And so Trump is one person who would always act to as it were, stamp his authority. He does not want anything to stand in his way. And then, so if you are a diplomat, it's even more demanding that you should be a little more measured. You cannot even act like the indigents of America. And so I expected Ibrahim Rasool to be a bit measured in the way he criticized the administration of Trump. Yes, we all have our issues. Some of his policies, trust me, I would always say that there are some of his policies that sitting here I admire them. A large number of them I don't. For instance, I like his no nonsense stance on transgender matters. And then these LGBTQ issues. That I admire him so much. And we need someone of such courage to be able to do that even in America. You won't believe that is happening in America. America that has always stood behind the LGBTQ community. You understand? To the extent that Trump is bold enough to tell them in the face. And recently announced that army officers, those in the military who are transgender, they must be removed from the military. And so you either have to be this or that. You can't be this and then at some point you tend to be this. And then there's also even children. He said you can't make a child is born to either be a male or a female. You, the parent, cannot choose that you want the child to be a female when God has created him a male. And so there are some of his policies I actually admire them. I admire his no nonsense stand. In fact, they are meant to protect the morality. And recently he gave a speech, I think last week, where you could see him pushing for America to be a little more moral these days. So he is pushing for some moral ethos in the American community that, if given the chance, to me, it to go a long way to shape the world, because America is one country that when it sneezes, we all catch cold. You understand? And so we should pay particular attention at what happens there. The deportation orders, too harsh. And sometimes look at how those people are deported, and look at where they are even sent to.
The inhumane
way of treating them, and then Guantanamo Bay. This has carved a bad name for itself already. Why do you take somebody who has maybe just overstayed his visa in your country? You are taking him to Guantanamo as if he has also committed some heinous crime. And so he's a little harsh in some of his things, but some too he is getting it right, and I think. But on the issue of South Africa, I have seen South Africa you know, the BRICS community, they will not also kowtow to the demands of any society that wants to prove to be superior to them. And I am always with the big society because we need the balance of power in our global community. We do not want a situation where America thinks that at any point in time, whatever they want to do, they can do it. And especially when especially we those who have our economy largely dominated by dollar-denominated transactions. I would always want to have a parallel system that can counter Americans' dominance, so that we don't always have to suffer the consequences of some of the decisions that are made there where we don't have control over some of those decisions. You realize that his actions in Yemen recently is also sparking a lot of things. So Trump is one person that we have to watch as a global character. He is quite unpredictable, and being such a person, you as a diplomat representing your country, you should be the last to step on his toes. Somebody like me, I can sit anywhere and make any comments I want to make.
But once you are
a diplomat, it's quite serious. And my understanding is that he's just been there for less than 2 months. I think he's just been there for 2 months now. And so at least being a new person there, you just have to make sure you settle well in that community, be well accepted, and then you can have your strong reservations. In fact, even in South Africa, I don't think if someone comes to South Africa and tries to make disparaging remarks about the current president, Ramaphosa, they will take it lying down. No country will do that. Even Ghana here will not take it lying down. And so he went overboard. He should have been a little measured. We all have strong views about some of the things Trump is doing. But as a diplomat, I think he just went overboard.
Right. Thank you very much, Honorable. Doc.
Yeah, so...
Let me hear from you, sir.
Good morning to your cherished viewers. And I want to also congratulate my brother here for winning his seat. He contested as an MP, I guess, and he won. So congratulations. Yes, 2024 election was actually a tough one.
Do you know who he beat?
That is what I'm yet to find out.
Could
you please tell me
he beat Aliyu Farouk Mahama, who is former Vice President Aliyu Mahamad's son.
Congratulations. That
it was a tough seat to win. It wasn't an easy battle at all. Yes.
So it means he's part of the people who brought the tsunami around.
Yeah.
That is good. Yesterday I met one of them also here in the night when I appeared on the Hot News show. Okay. So Bless, if you look at the geopolitical dynamics of our current global setting, you will see that there is this kind of showmanship, people trying to show their muscles here and there to prove that they are sovereign and they will some powers and all of that. South Africa's problem, has been there for some time, but recently it has become so, intense, or it has been deepened as a result of their stance when it comes to the Palestinians kind of, war, and then their decision to take it to the international court of, yeah. And then also their decision to join the BRICS, The BRICS agenda is that the US dollar, that monopoly, that the US dollar has been enjoying across the globe in terms of international trade, the BRICS is seeking to ensure that that is actually, curtailed. And so the US naturally will not be happy about such a decision. And so South Africa, coupled with internal politics when it comes to land policy and all of that, I agree with my brother that if you are a stranger on somebody's land or in somebody's jurisdiction, you need to watch your steps and mind the kind of things that you see. But the point of the matter is also that irrespective of the setting, if I say setting, I mean the place of, making such utterances, the question is, the things that he said, are they really out of order? I like Trump. Whatever he's doing, be it good or bad, I will always look at the positive aspect of it. That inward looking, bringing America back again in terms of economic superpower when it comes to the world international, the world politics. And it is a lesson for we the Africans to take, or we need to take a clue out of that. All that is happening. Where is AU? Because I believe if this situation happened to any European ambassador, the EU would have actually taken a stance. And this is where sometimes I criticize our African leaders. That weakness, I'm not saying that they should counter with harsh something, but there should be some sort of steps being taken by AU to support South Africa to take some measures.
Form of solidarity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You understand. And it's like we have left them to their fate, and they are supposed to fight the battle on their own. I love Trump, to the core, in the sense that some aid that he's cutting, some African leaders have started complaining it will affect our health sector, it will affect our agricultural sector and whatever. Look, if US were to mismanage their resources the way we have been mismanaging our resources in this continent, I don't think they would have had some excess for you to rely on to support your health or your agricultural sector or whatever intervention that you are enjoying. It is a wake-up call for African countries to actually set up and ensure that this economic sovereignty that we don't have, for which we become vulnerable to the whims and caprices of the white or the Western world, is actually stopped. I have seen the countries within the Sahel region taking steps in that. Of course, people frown on the way their leaders assume office. But the people of Africa, I must be frank, no longer care how you come into office. Just do what we want. And that is how come the people have gotten the support. If you look at the Burkina Faso leader, the Niger and the Mali and so on and so forth. Even in Ghana, it has happened in some years past. Our late President Rawlings, you saw at that time the citizenry were actually not happy about the way the democratically elected leaders were governing the nation. And so when this man took over, you saw the kind of charisma and the support, the charisma he himself, was actually having around him, the aura, and then the citizenry also supported him. So South Africa, first they should start with some sort of diplomatic discourse with the Americans, and then if that fails, you also need to counter, because you see, South Africa is a sovereign state. It's no longer, being colonized by any Western powers. And so, when it comes to, look, I was just reading something from LinkedIn, and Rwanda have also sanctioned Belgium ambassador.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
We need to also prove to the white that, look, without Africa, they are nothing. Look at the resources that we actually export to them. Look at the way the French are suffering when Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso decided to take everything and drive them away. The lithium that they were enjoying and all the gold and the diamonds that they were actually, mining and exploiting those countries and taking them into France. Now that they got leaders who are forward, minded, and then they are forward looking, and then decided to ensure that they also engage in inward-looking policies that will help or inure to the benefit of their people, you will see that now the French is suffering. And so because of the kind of leaders we actually elect to govern our nations, that is why we have become so vulnerable to these people, to the extent that you are afraid that if you take certain stance, some aid that you are enjoying will be actually cut off. And so sometimes you have to kowtow to their demands, even if it will not inure to the benefit of your citizens. And so I agree that first of all, the South African ambassador on the land of United States should have taken some sort of diplomatic means to communicate his disagreement with Trump's decisions here and there. However, the harm is already caused, but it's not a done deal. I think yesterday I heard that the president of South Africa made a statement that they are committed to engage in some diplomatic discussions with the United States of American government, the US government, to actually ensure that their decision is actually reversed, so that that bilateral relationship that they have been enjoying over the years will be restored, which is good. But the point of the matter is that African leaders should begin to take stance. Recently, our president made a very bold statement, which I always, anytime I look at in fact, I have actually screenshot it and kept it in my archives. Anytime I look at that particular statement, I really, get some sort of hope. You remember this LGBTQ, something like that. The World Bank and the IMF jammed into the discussion, and I think one of the international media engagement, he was asking, and he said, look, those people should focus on their core mandate and leave the culture, aspirations and the norms and traditions of other countries, to be as it is. Because if you like a lizard meat and I don't like, you don't have to force me to enjoy lizard meat just because you feel like the world is a global village. Yes, it's a global village, but even in countries we have different cultures, and different ethnic groups respect other people's cultures here and there. And so African leaders should take a clue from Trump's style of leadership. The days of Father Christmas is no longer there. If you look at Trump, even when he came, Canada, there is now trade war between them and the US. Trump started by introducing some tariffs, and then Canada also countered. China recently, the same thing has happened. So even amongst the West, Trump is doing that amongst them. So Africans should not look at the face of America to seek for favors here and there. We need to wake up and ensure that going forward, that neoliberal way of doing things, trying to always, even in internal policies and programs, we need to benchmark it to ensure that it pleases the West. We need to actually reverse that and ensure that we become a truly sovereign state in this particular continent.
Thank you very much, Dr. Felix Larry Esilfi. Let me say a good morning to Mr. Stephen Beng, who is doing the watching from WAB, as well as Ken, who is one of our dedicated viewers as well, always been doing the watching. Ken Williams, thank you so much for your time as usual. And all of you watching across the length and breadth of the country, across the African continent and the rest of the world. Let's move away from that discussion. Let's come back to Ghana. The Asantehene Otumfuo Setutu has called for a review of Ghana's free senior high school policy, suggesting that families who can afford it should contribute, allowing government resources to support students in genuine need. Speaking during a courtesy call by the Minister of Education, Haruna Idrisu, Otumfuo proposed a mixed support system similar to past practices where bursaries were awarded to needy but deserving students, while those who could afford it paid their way. Those who can afford to pay, let's have a second look at the policy. If someone can afford it, let's allow them to pay it. In the old times, when you passed, the bursary would look for good but needy students and award them scholarships, and those who could afford to pay did so. While acknowledging the benefits of free SHS, Otumfuo stressed the need for a national dialogue to address the program's challenges and ensure its sustainability. This free SHS we are talking about, although we have implemented it, if we have a dialogue and find out that it will result in students coming home every now and then because there is no food, then it is not fit for purpose. Interesting. He also raised concerns about infrastructure and logistical challenges affecting senior high schools, including overcrowded dormitories, lack of science and ICT laboratories, food shortage, and inadequate school buses. Our dormitories are overcrowded and lack science and ICT labs. Sometimes PTA makes contributions to support. The lack of school buses and the shortage of food should all be looked at. Let us implement it well so that students will stay in school and have enough to eat. But my question is, is this advice needed now? I mean, not in a negative sense, but especially now that I understand there's a dedicated funding. The government has found some dedicated funding to the free senior high school policy. And also some people have been asking questions that why didn't the Otumfuo say say this a long time ago when, you know, the issues particularly were rife, issues relative to accommodation where students had to run double, triple track system, red, yellow, green, go to school for 2 weeks, come back home for 3 months, go another set goes and all of that. Why didn't he say this, you know? Then I know that we hold Otumfuo in high esteem, of course, and rightly so. However, and I know we are going to be choosing our words carefully in this regard. However, why is he saying this now? Why not some 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago when, you know, Nana Addo took over the reins of office and decided to implement it immediately without looking at the negative aspects, without looking at the without having a dedicated funding for the policy, without looking at how students will be fed, knowing that the free senior high school policy was going to increase the number of students in our, you know, in our senior high schools. Dr. Larry Selfie, this question is to you.
So when it comes to education, any policies or programs that you introduced must be focused on the final outcome in terms of education outcomes for the children. Either you want to increase enrollment or you want to increase what is called retention. People are able to stay in school and learn, or you want to encourage progression. And then also in terms of passing, you know, it's also another outcome. Or in terms of the human capacity that you are seeking to build, you need to have an objective. The problem I have with the free SHS, way from its inception, I remember one of your sister stations, I was on set with some colleagues of mine, and I will mention one of them because yesterday we were making fun of ourselves, Dr. Domfe in the University of Ghana. We were on set, I think on TV3, and I was arguing about the lack of targeting when it comes to the free SHS. So the Otumfuo comment is actually not out of order. Let's assume he didn't know what he's saying now, and experiential knowledge has taught him that he has to now weigh into the argument and also support some of the assertions we made earlier on. The free SHS, left with me alone, I prefer the style of President Mahama in his first tenure between, I think, 2013 and 2017, if I'm right, or 2012 and 2016. That progressive nature. This is a leader who was forward-looking, because you see, if you increase enrollment and you don't add on to infrastructure, it's like pouring water into a basket. You're not going to have it full. So that rushing nature of wholesale, everybody must go. We Ghanaians need to be honest. We need to be honest with ourselves and then face reality. Today, parents whose children have had the opportunity to enjoy the free SHS, if they look at their children, are they worth even being employed as salesperson in people's shops? That's the question we need to ask ourselves. Those children who have completed, some of them, when even they are speaking, their level of thinking, their level of analysis is so porous. Those days when you talk of somebody in secondary school, it was huge. Those days, even in the early 2000s, let's forget about the 90s, sorry, the early 2000s, if we say somebody is reading science, reading business, reading general arts, or doing ABC course in secondary school, when you vacate, if you're a boarder and you vacate and you come home, the kind of respect that you command. Today, look at the SHS has become something like a primary school kind of thing, and students go for a few weeks and then they come and stay at home maximum, I think, 1 month or so. I stand to be corrected. So the king is not wrong. Let's assume that, in fact, like we need to choose our words carefully. When at the onset, when some of us were commenting, I never heard him, making such remarks. But let's assume that better late than never. As a king, as an elderly person of the land, who also governed a very significant portion of this country, as his subject, he has been going around, Otumfo is some high school in KNUSC. He's someone sometimes, he put on some very simple, apparel, and then with his bodyguard, he moves from school to school, shops to shops, just to exchange pleasantries with his people. And that is why his people love him. You understand? So I'm sure going around, he's been able to find out that, okay, what some people were saying at the onset of this particular policy, I think it is actually real. Let us target the thing. After all, this is a social intervention. What is the essence of social intervention? Is to make available that which the white can afford, but the poor cannot afford, to the poor. You understand? If you are talking about cash transfer, for example, the rich are okay. They are able to afford whatever square meals that they want to afford. They are able to get whatever. But the poor may not even be able to afford all the square meals, the 3 average that we all know. And so you extend that particular transfer to them to also give them or create some equity in the system. In the second side, when it comes to free SHS, there are people in the country. Look, even Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta, if you remember, in the early days of free SHS, emphatically said that he doesn't understand why somebody like him who could pay for his ward school fees is also made to have his children educated for free. And I remember the then Minister for Information, who was later changed, and then Kojo Oponkroma took over. The fair Muslim man. He used to be a lecturer. Yeah, Mustafa Hamid. Spoke against that, and then even his reshuffling, people were alluding that it was as a result of the fact that he commented against what the then finance minister stated. But the man, for once, I don't like the style and the behavior and the personality of Ofori-Atta, but for once he spoke the truth to the people of Ghana. So we need to target it. It doesn't matter whether dedicated funds are made. Look, President Mahama and this government cannot do much about infrastructure if we keep free SHS the way it is, because the population year after year that enter into the second cycle, that the senior high school, is continuously increasing. It doesn't decline. You understand? And then when you go to the boarding houses, a dormitory that was supposed to take maybe 50 students, now it's taking more than 200. Let's assume that there is a disease outbreak. Can we quantify the casualties that we shall record as a state or as a nation? You understand? This infectious disease, meningitis and all those stuff, cholera recently that came, assuming the kids were in school and there was such an outbreak. Are we thinking of that, the health implication of that? Number 2, the quality of education we are giving to the children. I'm afraid for this country. I'm really, really afraid for this country, because you see, in the next 10 to 15 years to come, these people, the way we are training them, will find themselves in our parliament house. Some of them will become ministers. Some of them will become CEOs of our state-owned enterprises. Some of them will become other officials for in our country. And the way we are training them, lack of practicality. Today, school farms, we don't even do. Students, when they go to the lab, like Otumfo said, it is true. Go to Infantima girls. You understand? When it comes to chemistry and physics labs and what have you, because of the population, the teacher will just stand in front and then use one. Those days, I did chemistry. When you go to lab, if it is this titration, you have your pipette and whatever set up in front of you. So whilst the teacher is doing, you also follow suit. Yeah. But this time, because of the population, the teacher asks them to just sit down, and then he does it for everybody to see.
Yeah.
Because even if you put them into groups, some people will not have access to benefit from what is being taught, which is very, very bad. And these people are going to be moved into the universities. And then they end up memorizing concepts. They don't understand the practicality of it. So when they come and then you take the book and the handout and their transcript away from them, they cannot think. So we need to be very careful about that. Let us hold the bull by the horn. I am praying that this government will do the right thing. We can't go the way we are going. I am happy the government has allocated funds for it. You understand? But that fund that has been allocated, yes, it may bring in terms of feeding and other stuff there, but the quality of education that we intend giving, because the second cycle is actually the link. From there you transition to the tertiary, and once you enter into tertiary, it means that once you pass out, you can manage any business or any affairs, be it in the public sector or in the private sector. And this kind of people, my brother, can you even engage some of them in your personal business and then hand over, leave everything in their hands to manage it? They can't. They are great students. Some of them have not even seen plantain leaf before, because it's all about the theory. And then because the time that they are going to the red, gold, green, they have limited number of weeks to stay in school. That is not the time you are taking them to school farms to see some of these things. The science student, how many times they even go to the lab? The general art student and all of that, business student. So we need to be very, very careful. As for the king, I would say better late than never. Some of us at that time, I remember one of my articles I wrote appealing to him to also make a comment, since at that time our then president was virtually visiting his home anytime he finds himself in Ashanti region. So I felt that in one of the engagements those days with him, he would have actually made it clear to him, to rescind his decision of doing it wholesale, because it was implemented as a political promise. And so yesterday, when I was on set on your evening show, I made it clear by warning this government that, look, whatever we do with the taxpayers' money, we need to ensure sustainability. You understand? The sustainability is the most important thing. And then that is to ensure that whatever policies and programs you are putting together today, the benefits, even after the life cycle of whatever project you implemented, the benefit will still stay with the people for good. You can't implement something and then the end result or the outcome is actually negative. It's having a negative implication on the people. Today, if your child finishes secondary school, he or she cannot do anything. Look, some of them cannot even teach. When I finished secondary school, I taught for 3 years and I presented students for BEC. Go and check my track record in Mankesi. You understand? I presented 16 people for mathematics. All of them got ones, except one who got 2. Even that one, she misbehaved. She stopped and then she was helping someone. And then vigilator asked her to stand up. You understand? So by the time she was asked to sit to continue, the time was already gone. But even that one, she got 2. You understand? It's because of the quality of education that I received at the second cycle. And I know there are people of my age who were equally competent as, I am actually boasting this morning with my little achievement at that level. And so we need to be very careful about the free SHS. Let us hold the bull by the horn. Let us ensure that we target it. I don't even support Otumfuo's way of create a bursary and needy. Look, the politicians will extend their tentacles at that level. As for Honorable, and Honorable cannot deny that. Honorable sitting here, if we create that particular bursary, his constituent, one of the Honorable, even a rich person, just for the fact that his children or his child is benefiting from the student bursary alone, even though he could pay, he will find a way to force Honorable to ensure that they get it. So I don't want that. The point of the matter is that if you want to go to boarding, be prepared to pay. You understand? If you want to enjoy the free SHS to the fullest, then you go to a day secondary school. And the blocks that the current president in his first tenure started putting up, that was a brilliant idea. You know, if you go to my farm village in the Jumako Enyan ACM district or constituency, there's a village called Enyan Mim. In the day when Arthur Forson was the deputy finance minister, he was able to lobby to bring one to the village called Enyan Mim. Now go and see the economic boom in that area. Day school, you understand? And people who are thrown there from outside that jurisdiction, and as a result of the computer placement, when they come, they rent a place. You understand? Which also I actually disagree. These days, if you have a little girl, you know, and then that girl alone is going to rent a place outside the school's jurisdiction, and then go and stay there. Teenage pregnancies, let us do a survey as a result of the free SHS. Let's do a survey. You see, these are some of the hidden outcomes that we are not able to, you know, quantify or unravel. And so we feel like it is, you know, go as usual. It is there, let us put money and what have you. But look, the social vices that distant, the young boys, when they are living alone without any supervision from the senior house masters and co, as we used to enjoy in our secondary schools, they tend to engage in social vices. You understand? Some of them become drug, you know, users. Some of them join some bad groups. They end up becoming, you know, thieves here and there, robbers and all of that. We need to be careful about that. Day school must be day school, and it should be a beneficiary kind of thing for the people within that particular enclave. We should stop this computer placement where somebody is in Accra or Soton, you put the person in Tamale. You understand? In the name of free SHS. And then the parent have to go and look for a place and rent for them. And that child alone, sometimes below 18 years, is staying all alone.
Yeah.
You understand? So we need to be very careful. That's why I started by saying that what outcomes are we looking for when it comes to free SHS? Is it just to, you know, fulfill political promise that, oh, we will not cancel it and so let it be there? Or we want to really ensure that we will streamline it to give us the best outcomes that we are looking for? What outcomes are we looking for? Actually, what is the purpose of the free SHS? That is my point. If the purpose is to improve quality, come out with better human capital for the state, then we need to ensure that we handle it in such a way that we can achieve such outcomes without any social or negative externalities associated with that. Yeah.
Honorable, my question is then, if we are to go with what the Otumfuo is saying, and we've often said that it's not the first time that anybody has suggested, even this current administration, when it was in opposition, proposed that, look, it cannot be a wholesale policy. People who can afford it should pay for it. It was a strain on the public purse. Now, how are we able to decipher who can afford and who cannot afford? Because if we are to leave that choice to people to make, I mean, even if I can afford it, and I have to pay, like, say, 2,000 cedis to put my ward to school, even if I can afford it, I'm not going to say, oh, I can afford it, so I'll pay it. I could save 2,000 Ghana cedis. And so how do we make that, you know, distinction between who can afford and who cannot afford? Also, Doc made a point about the fact that even if we have a dedicated funding to it, let's also look about the quality. What's the quality of food that we are serving these students? And already, I think since this administration took over, it has taken some steps to provide the students with quality food. But how sustainable is that? How long is it going to be? I remember when I was in SHS, in my last year, I was part of the first 4-year batch. In 2011, I completed SHS in 2011. I remember in that final year, the quality, if you see the quality of food that we were served, sometimes even if you were home, you will not even get that food. You will not even get that food to eat. So how sustainable is this? I want to find out.
Well, thanks so much, bro. And once again, I think free SHS as a policy is one that we should guard jealously as a nation. we have all found ourselves in this situation because there were not enough consultations before the rollout of the policy. It is a big policy, and it shouldn't just be rolled out simply because there are resources to cater for it. In fact, when MPP took over in 2017, President Mahama had left so much in the state coffers that they didn't need to look for money anywhere to roll out the free SHS. And so right from the beginning of that academic year, free SHS was part of the system. But what it denied us was the opportunity to have maybe thought through the policy very well, come up with, say, a bill. Once you have a bill on the policy, you take the bill to Parliament. Parliament will debate the bill and engage in wider stakeholder consultations and bring out all the ills and the strengths in the bill. And then they will help shape the bill to serve us well. And I think we have seen it more as a tool for political goal scoring rather than impacting on our society in terms of education. Now your question goes as how do we determine who is deemed to be a proper beneficiary, like how in terms of who is in need to have it. It's not because we don't invest so much in data and research. But I believe that, for instance, Ghana Statistical Service, as we speak, there is so much they have in their office that if you want to rely on it, how are they able to determine that this person should be a beneficiary of a LEAP program, Livelihood Empowerment Against Poverty, LEAP. And this one is not supposed to be a beneficiary? Something may have gone behind the scene before they came out with that determination. And so they have ways of determining which section of the society is below the poverty line, is in need of that support, and which section is not in need. And like we said, and like my brother said, even the former Minister of Finance, Ken Ofori-Atta, at the very early hours of the implementation of free SHS, he was also of the opinion that the thing should not be a blanket system for all to benefit. No. Because he asked the question, how? So, somebody like me, as a finance minister, I can afford to pay for my war school fees. Why does the state have to pay for it? And that option was not open. And so if you look at NDC's position right from the word go and what it has started doing since assuming office, it is in line with what it has always said. Because the first thing you need to do is to consult. That is why it organized the Education Forum. The Education Forum provided a big platform for varied views to be shared on various aspects of our education, not just free SHS. Free SHS is just one of those. But you see, you ask a question, is it the appropriate time for Tufo to have made this comment? Remember when JM took over, His Excellency the President took over, he said that, he said it publicly, that there is now freedom of speech in our educational system, and that headmasters and all stakeholders in our educational system are now free to air their grievances. This was not the case in the era of a president who portrayed himself as a human rights activist. We have a president who wrote on his so-called achievements as a human rights activist to become the president of the Republic of Ghana. Yet under his watch, people could not freely express themselves. Headmasters were gagged for speaking about the difficulties they were going through in their schools. You do that, and at this moment, you are transferred.
Yeah.
And this was a human rights activist as our president. And so, Otunfuo, yes, could have said it at that time, but you see, there was a forum, education forum. Otunfuo's views would have been sought as part of the forum. Then he couldn't make it to the forum. The Minister for Education, being somebody who is so visionary, he knows that Otunfuo may have certain views he would want to share, but he cannot join the forum. So he decided to go to him as part of his engagements. And then he made this comment. And so these comments will be taken on board as part of the information gathering at the forum. The forum has ended, and they went through the validation, but they haven't finished still consulting stakeholders. In fact, my understanding is even this morning they are meeting the Parliamentary Committee on Education to share with them some of the information they gathered, because it is not enough to just gather the input or the opinions from public and rush straight to the presidency. There are people who need to vet it, particularly Parliament is there, so they are coming to share whatever they may have gathered from their validation to the Parliamentary Select Committee on Education, and then they can also share whatever opinions and then make certain recommendations if need be. If you look at the system, the education system is one system that we cannot joke with. We can't toy with it. And so everything must be done to make sure that we get things right from the word go. Look, regardless of whatever politics may have been played, it is not sustainable to have everybody going through the system just like that. In fact, to the extent that the worst aspect of it is that you go in and you are guaranteed
to go to the next stage, to go to the next
you understand? So what is the motivation for me to study again? If I am a brilliant student and you are a dumb guy, we all have, in fact, and chances are I may even be placed in a better school than you.
Yeah.
Because like you said, the placement system doesn't even respect the grades.
Yeah.
And so it was indolence. So students who are even more indolent, who will not put in any effort to study, they are not given any reason to sit up. And those who do their best, they are also rewarded. Because it is, everybody must go through. And the reason too is that because of the difficulty in managing the system at the secondary school level, no school can have a student repeated, because the government will tell you they don't have the money to feed the person again, because the budget was for his tenure as a 3-year course. Once he gets to the 3rd year, whether he does well or not, pass him to go. You understand? And so when they started this policy, and there was the cry that students would fail at the end of the day, do you know the cure the government got for it?
Past questions.
Past questions. Is that the way to cure such a serious issue? And at the time it was procuring past questions for the students, it had not provided textbooks for the students to study. So between past questions and textbooks, as a government concerned with the education of your people, which one would you prioritize? You left the textbooks and you prioritize past questions. And so they will come out with beautiful grades. But it's all chew for pass and forget. They don't even understand what they have read. Because even our examination bodies are now engaged in recycling questions. They don't even set new questions. It's all about taking past questions and picking the... Look, let me be frank with you. Let me be frank with you. How I passed my maths paper in SSC. Before I went in, I had looked at, especially the objectives. I had looked at all the past questions from when SS started to my time. And I had solved all repeatedly over time. And so I could look at a question like this and tell you the answer without having to work. Yeah. And when I went into the exams, within a matter of 15-20 minutes, I was done with the objectives. Because the same questions were repeated with the same numbers. And so I didn't have to work.
Answers.
Yes, I didn't have to work most of the questions. And so the examination bodies, are they also doing lazy jobs over there or what? Can they now sit back and think through the courses and come up with questions that don't find themselves repeated? Otherwise, we would have a system where we all go through the system, but we can't make that serious impact we need. And so, after the sustainability, your guess is as good as mine. In its current shape and form, it is not sustainable. Yes, the current government, look, how can you introduce a policy for well over 8 years? You have no dedicated funding for it. No one can tell us where are we getting money to support free SHS. And when petroleum revenue, per the Petroleum Revenue Management Act, PRMA, 2011, when the act itself says that this portion, 30% of the revenue should go into government coffers, and 70% should be used for infrastructure. The government haven't consumed the 30%. It's now looking at consuming part or a chunk of the 70% still on goods and services. Chop. And PIAC will raise issues because PIAC is mandated to oversee how the petroleum revenues are expended. When PIAC raises issues, PIAC is approached and asked to consider the money invested in free SHS from the petroleum fund as also infrastructure investment. But that's not what the act says. The government was telling PIAC that because investment in free SHS would mean building the capital base of our people, but human capital is part of that, the PIAC should consider that one as infrastructure. And PIAC said, no, we have defined infrastructure even in the act. It doesn't include this. And even in the free SHS, the money that was taken from petroleum fund to be used to finance free SHS was in provision of goods and services. So clearly, we have run the system for 8 years without a dedicated fund.
Yeah.
And you have Get Fund. Yes, Get Fund. I'm really shocked because implementing a policy like free SHS, no one should tell you that there would be huge numbers at our senior high schools because not everybody will be able to go. Is that not it? Fee issues will no longer be a barrier. And at the same time, you should be thinking about improving and expanding infrastructure at the SHS level to accommodate those students. The only way to expand infrastructure, education infrastructure in our education system today in Ghana is through Get Fund. Now, Get Fund, the same government comes back to cap Get Fund. And now says that the allocation to Get Fund has to be reduced by this much. And so what Get Fund was getting before the introduction of free SHS went down, it got reduced. And so where would the capacity come from for it to be able to provide the needed infrastructure to absorb the students that we were now expecting to go to school as a result of free SHS? No wonder that we had to introduce the red, green, how do they call it?
The traffic light system.
No, we had to introduce that one. But at least if we had allowed Get Fund to maintain the inflow that it was already enjoying, trust me, in 2-3 years after the introduction of free SHS, Get Fund would have been able to provide the needed infrastructure to accommodate the numbers that we're now getting. Thank God, the president has today said he's coming to uncap Get Fund and make sure there's a dedicated funding for free SHS. Now, we were in this country when people told us that NDC's promise to review free SHS meant cancellation. Today, Otunfo is saying let's review it. I don't know whether the same review is what Otunfo is talking about. Whether Otunfo's review, now they will see it to be different from cancellation. You understand? And if you look at this government's idea, and there is also this issue that since the introduction of free SHS, there has been a subtle neglect of the basic educational system in our country. That's what most people don't talk. Today, if you talk about education, everyone talks about free SHS. Meanwhile, if you look at the chain, free SHS is just somewhere. There's a beginning to free SHS, and there's even a continuation after free SHS.
Yeah.
But the entire government focus is now on that period, 3-4 years, that period. And I ask myself, if you allow that system before or pre-SHS era to be so desecrated that it does not offer the needed educational building that is supposed to offer to the student. If you allow the student to go through that porous system and get the free SHS, which itself is even porous, then what do we expect to come out of this whole system. That is why this government feels that no, there has been a deliberate neglect of the basic education, and so there will be some policies targeted at these areas. That is why this government is now saying that, one, in terms of infrastructure, all GET farm projects commenced in 2014, and I tell you that, look, there are hundreds and hundreds of GET farm projects commenced in 2014 which were supposed to support educational infrastructure, but because of the capping of the GET Fund Act in 2017, a lot of them have stalled. In my constituency, in one school, can you believe it? In one school, we call it St. Vincent College of Education. It has 8 uncompleted projects. Out of these 8 uncompleted projects, 7 are GET farm projects. And these 7 projects started in the first NDC John Mahama era, 2014-2015. And they were stalled. And for the entire 8 years of MPP, not even a single block has been added to any of these 7 projects. As a result, when other colleges are admitting 1,000 students, 900, 1,200 students in other areas like Tatsko, Batko, Tamale, in my area, St. Vincent, they can only admit 300, 350. Meanwhile, if that infrastructure were to be completed, by now, we would have been. That is why this government has committed. If you look at paragraph page 107 of the manifesto, paragraph 646, it says that one of the key things the government will do is to complete all stalled GET farm projects across the country and complete the 62 E-blocks that were not completed. And then in addition, build 5 more E-blocks because the infrastructure is key. And so if you address the infrastructure challenge, trust me, if you look at Otunfo's complaint, he says that if they go to school and come and spend more time at home than they spend in school, then we must as well review it.
Yeah.
And this has been the cry of Ghanaians ever since free SHS was introduced. The question is, what has been done to address the problem? All the education minister then said to us was the numbers. To the extent he even overbloated the numbers. That 5.7 million people. When the actual fact is 3.5.
It's not even 3.1.
3.1.
3.1 million.
So you see, we have played politics over this sector for too long. And your mama said he is not in any way considering cancelling free SHS, but he will make it better. And so I believe that Ghana Statistical Service has the capacity to tell us where poverty lies. In fact, even by just doing geographical scanning.
Honorable, let me come in here. We don't even need the statistical service to do that job. The leap you made mention of.
The livelihood and permanent.
Yes, I have been a consultant, extensively in the social protection circles. There is data called the Ghana National Household Registry. 2020, my company did the data collection for Northeast region.
Certainly.
There is something called proxy means test. It is an analytical tool when the data comes, because you collect data on assets, occupation and all of that, all economic activities. So that particular proxy means test will actually segregate these people into extreme poor, and what have you. So that one, when it comes to a simple social protection like this, it is easier. The GNHR data is there. But for the free SHS, which is a nationwide something, it's highly bigger. You understand? And I will not support anything like let's do some analysis. I am telling you the way we do our politics in this country, that will not work. The point of the matter is that day schools, boarding schools. And then there are some schools that have been there for long, and so we call them first class schools because of the kind of achievement they've made and what have you. If you want to go there, you pay. You understand? If you want to go for day school, free of charge. Then maybe those schools that are, the boarding house, whatever, what government will do is to support them with some sort of subvention to cater for some important needs like maybe feeding, contribute a little bit for their, dining and all of that. You understand? Then the rest of the money is used to fund infrastructure from the basic to the tertiary. We need that. You understand? So, in terms of identifying who is poor and who is not poor, President Mahama solved that problem when he was in office between 2012 and 2016. Progressive free SHS. He started with the day school. Yeah. You understand? If we decide to neglect the day school, and listen, F cube.
Yeah.
Have you seen how our basic education, government schools have turned out to? Accra here.
Yeah.
You, will you, even with your limited resources, will you jeopardize the foundational building of your child and send your child to a public school? You will not do it. Why won't we? You know, why? But apart from the fact that I enjoyed private school from my very infant stage, at the primary, the upper primary to the time I wrote my BEC exam, I was in government school, and it was as quality as today's private schools.
Private schools, yeah.
You understand? Today we have even relegated that one to the background, and then the private sector have monopolized us, and then they are charging undue fees. You understand? A child will now go to nursery 1, nursery 2, KG 1, KG 2, and all of that. All these things are ways of taking money from people. Yeah. Because in those days when public schools were there, from that day nursery, which is just one academic year, then you join the primary one, they are able to teach you to know the basic numeracy, and then your ability to write some simple words and all of that. Why can't we do that?
Yeah.
So please, the Honorable, I'm sorry I've taken your distance. Yeah. So in terms of the free SHS, please, the poor, you understand. And how do you see the poor? The point is that, look, boarding school, even now that free SHS, we say it is free SHS, it is more expensive than it was parents were paying.
We are told, yeah.
It's not, it's a fact. Because you see, I have one in my home who has gone through the red, gold, green. If she's standing here, my brother, it is nothing to write home about. So I have to spend huge sums of money to get teachers for her to be taught again, as if she's now in first year, before she can go and write. That is number one. Number two, the point of the matter is that when they go to the university, my brother, go and see the university there. You just go to Legon here. It's an eyesore. The
quality of students.
You understand? More than 600 students for one course, one program, not the whole first year, one program. Maybe biological science or Greek or whatever. More than 600 students. And in our time, the lecture halls that we used to call very big lecture halls. These days it's like a cattle ranch. Small space for them, because if you go there and the lectures are ongoing, you will see more than half of the student population standing outside, even in the sun. And do you know why they are standing there? They wish they could go and stay in their halls or in their hostels and later come for the note or the handout. But for attendance sake, some of them have to stand in the sun and then be, stressing themselves before after the lectures. Then they sign and then they go to their hostels or their halls. So at the end of the day, the person goes and spends 3 hours standing without getting anything. And we have resorted to past questions. Now students are like robots. Well, you understand? So please, the review, and then please, a word of caution to the current administration. You remember in their campaign, they said they are going to add the private schools to it. They need to take their time. It's not a bad idea. I'm not debunking that, because the private schools, students there are also Ghanaians. Their parents also pay taxes. You understand? And whatever benefit that ought to be enjoyed, they have the right to enjoy. But with what we have in our plates now, we have not seen our way out. We need to ensure that, and I'm praying that this education forum will come out with practical solutions to, and I hope that one of the recommendations will be that we should review it and make sure that if you want to go to the boarding school or some classes of school, and if you go to US, that is what they do. The schools are divided into about 4 classes. You understand? If you want to go to a class A school, purely funded, and the fees are very, very, very expensive. If you can afford that, it's up to you. Class B, the same thing until I think the last 2 classes where it is absolutely free, to the extent that even bus, and they are purely bus or train to take you to school and back is also purely funded by the government. And the quality is almost the same for all of them. The only difference is that you are, attending your classes from home under the control of your parents, and some people are enjoying some boarding facilities. That's the difference. But in terms of quality, availability of infrastructure and everything, it's the same. Let's do it that way so we can get better education outcome for our people.
Right. I'll do some messages. We have received quite a number of them. Greetings, bless. Great show, and your panelists are awesome. This free SHS is just not sustainable. Student numbers are very huge. Schools overcrowded. It should have been limited to day schools and boarding and feeding paid for by parents. Maybe a free SHS levy would not be bad. It would not be a bad idea as a dedicated source of funding to build more infrastructure, complete abandoned projects, and run the program, and it will reduce burden on government. Kofi from Yamiche. Thank you, Kofi. Good morning, bless. My daughter is in one of the transition schools. They vacate for at least 3 months and stay home. They vacate for at least 3 months and stay in school for a maximum of 45 days. Musa from Tamale sent this one. Thank you. As a graduate of educational management, stakeholder dialogue in project planning cannot be glossed over. Free SHS was a disaster because it was imposed without inputs from PTA. Even school heads who asked parents to provide furniture were victimized. As a tutor, I had kids with over 45 grades and cannot read or write but enjoyed mass promotion. Again, bushmen in Australia rejected houses built for them without their consent. They wonder why clean water is used to flush toilet when they can't get access to potable water. This is food for thought for our leaders. Ken Williams sent this one. Thank you, Ken Williams, for a message. Good morning to you and your cherished viewers. African leaders should be bold and firm in our quest to developing the continent. Politicization should be stopped, and let's support President Mahama to deliver. Ghana, our beloved nation, will be proud of such leader tomorrow. My greetings to Honorable Ms. Bao, MP from Myong, from Osman in Zakbausi. Okay, thank you. Good morning. Blessed. This is Adam Kola, PRO from Tamale Central. My brother, how will you know that this person can pay or this man cannot pay? They should put it in scholarship form. You get from 6 to 25. You are qualified for free SHS. But if you are not, then you fall out. Okay. My greetings to Haj Tanko and Chief Sofo Azoka. Okay. All right. Thank you. Bless. It is a known fact that it isn't every student that can make it to the top, and that is why other people learn some trade. Like Dr. Felix is saying, the products of the free SHS are very terrible. As for Otumfo's narrative, I see it as a trap for the NDC. Ni Mensa at Spintex Road. Thank you, Ni Mensa, for your message. Abbas Amogobo from Offensu says President Mahama will send Ghana to the promised land. Let's all support him. Okay, thank you. This is fee, the seed. We need repayment and justice for real. We don't only eat and sleep. We give you okay. Looking at the demography, we have the upper class, middle class, the lower middle class, and the lower class. Africa occupies the lower class, while black occupies the upper class. Okay, well, I don't understand your message, but well. This one here also says, good morning, bless. To be fair, I remember very well that the Asantehene cautioned Nanado's government about the immediate implementation of the free SHS. Okay, in that regard, he asked government at the time to consider adding on infrastructure to be able to accommodate students, particularly in the tertiary institutions. Yakubu sent this one. Thank you, Yakubu. Good morning, bless. I think it's enough for the threats of the Americans in every little issue. I believe Trump is just not happy with South Africa because of the court case against Israel's genocide. Bibi from Musuku. Thank you, Bibi. Okay, good morning, Bless. I personally support the call by the revered Otumfuo 82. It makes no sense to have everybody across board being covered by the free senior high school policy. It could have been tailored to address the educational needs of the poor in society. This will save the nation some resources. Even when people are saying they don't need it because they can pay for their wards education, the nation is still forcing it on them. There must be fiscal discipline, and this one came from Adams in WA. Thank you, Adams, for your message, and good morning to the people of WA. I'll do two more. Obama Nation says, good morning and to you and your lovely viewers, especially the great people of Ward K. You people are doing a great job. Keep it up. And my regards to my lovely father, Honorable Alaji Alasan Suyini. Okay, thank you for your message. This last one, micro minority can't set a trap for President Mahama. He's an experienced politician who knows what's right. His focus isn't on building hospitals for MPs, but on building the capacity of citizens and creating jobs to alleviate the unprecedented hardship caused by the Akufo-Addo and Bawumia government. He's already taken positive steps, and we should support and pray for him to reset Ghana on the path of prosperity. This will be my final topic for conversation. We have some 14 minutes more. Let me start with you, Honorable. That proposal to construct a hospital for the political class and also a new chamber. You are in Parliament. Is the facility that bad? Do you need a new chamber to accommodate you? And also with Ridge Hospital close by, do you also need a hospital? There's also a clinic in Parliament. I'm aware of that. All of these do not suffice.
I don't even see what is necessitating that discussion. I don't know what platform they spoke. I only heard about it in the media. I don't know what was the engagement about when the subject came up. But I honestly, I do not think as we speak we should be talking about a new chamber. You see, but we have all been seeing the British Parliament, and you see how crowded it is.
Yeah,
they don't even have tables. They will just have the chairs that they sit, and they are so packed like sardine. Yet they sit there in that environment and make one of the best decisions you can think of.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know what is necessitating this conversation at this point in time, when we all know where we are as a nation. But we have a country to rescue. Our priorities must be set right. A new chamber is not what we need today. For what? How else do we want? Do we want a chamber that we can sleep on beds? Because, yes, some of us have issues with, but if you sit in a chair, some of us have, but it's all about changing the seats somehow, because some of the seats have been there for some time. They have become so uncomfortable. Somewhere you sit, at the next moment you feel some pain, but that is only to do with the furniture. But the chamber to me is in the best of shapes. I don't think we have gotten there yet, especially as a nation that is just coming out from a period that we couldn't even pay our debts. What justification, what moral justification will we have to tell our people that we have now gotten everything right to the extent that we now considering building a new chamber? The hospital bit, look, if you go to the clinic in Parliament House, it's always empty.
Even there?
Even yesterday I was there. It's just some small space there. But even that,
it's always empty.
It's always empty. So why do you even have to spend money building a clinic? And like you are saying, even Rich Hospital is just a stone throw from the place. And they have arrangement with various hospitals. Trust Hospital is also at the back there. I don't know what emergency could necessitate. So the clinic there, for most of the time, if you walk in, you are likely to be the only person they may have even attended to that whole day. Yes. I have been there only, I think, on 2 or 3 occasions. And I have never gone there to meet a single person. Anytime I go there, it's me.
It's just you.
If I go there, they are basically waiting for people to come. And so that is how we should be spending our resources. And not, okay, so now you go and build a humongous facility, that's a hospital. And you expect only MPs. How many hours do we spend there? And this is a hospital that doesn't even, this is a facility that doesn't even function on weekends. Weekends we are not there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In the night we are not there.
Yeah.
So largely they are just
working. Even travel to your constituencies.
That is it. Largely the only time they have to be there is between say 8 a.m. in the morning to say 6, 7 p.m. And that one, whatever it is, the facility in there, the in-house facility can take care of any emergency situation before you are moved to any of the befitting facilities. And I must tell you that they have one of the best medical staff at the facility down there. Yes, one of the best you can find, the finest you can find. And they have built their network in such a way that at any point in time they can tell where they can move you to. And so when you come, the first thing is to get your situation stabilized. And then they move you to, and they have arrangement with almost all the hospitals around. Wherever you are, they have arrangements. And so they just need to, and the ambulance is always on standby.
It's stationed there.
So I think that arrangement for now suffices. That if there was nothing like that, then we could say something like that should be provided. But not a whole hospital building again, no. I don't think we are there. As a nation who are yet to even set our priorities right, we I don't know even where the funding can come from. Because look at these days, every now and then there's the outbreak of one disease or the other. We are struggling to contain it. You understand? For how much more? I look at Agenda 111 that our communities badly need. I think that is where our conversation should rather be going to. How come a government that promised to use 1 year to complete these projects in 2021, up to the end of 2024, not even a single one is in operation? Those are the things that should engage us, but not the issue of hospital for MPs. No. I think that's my little contribution.
Right, thank you. Dr. Sophie.
Yes, so one of the reasons for which we are where we are is the kind of leadership like Afenyo Markins that we have in our parliament. You see, if you have these kind of people elected to handle the political and the public affairs of the state, the ordinary Ghanaian or the ordinary citizen will continue to suffer. Because if you look at, I have listened to the tape, the way he even made the submission is to glorify the political class, to talk of their comfort, with total disregard to the plight of the ordinary Ghanaian. Like he rightly said, my brother, one day if you have the time and I'm going on field monitoring, maybe you have a long leave for maybe 1 week and I say, oh, bro, let's go for monitoring. You will cry. Sometimes I have money in my pocket to do other things for my own feeding. When I hit a certain community, I'm forced to just dole it out like that. Ordinary water. I traveled to a village around Eastern region. I've forgotten the name. It's just behind Akutia. The Akutia area there. No. I think it's rather in Ashanti region. You know where the Fulani people, that area. There is a small village over there. These people are serious tomato farmers. And when we were doing the monitoring, we were crossing a small river. That river that we were crossing, that our cow was even moving, is what they were fetching. And you see cattle, drinking the same water. In that same community, we went there, and the only school over there is just a palm front tent. You understand? And then their junior high school have arranged their chairs under a tree, and some of them especially the basic ones, they were lying on the, not even a mat on the ground. They were lying on the floor and writing. Their uniforms, the books that they were writing in are all dirty. And we have somebody like Afenyomakin sitting there talking about building a new chamber. What is wrong with this chamber? And he was also showing some sort of pride that, you know, he's been to the British Parliament. Then maybe when he went, he didn't learn well. Because just as you rightly said, it's a small chamber, crowded, and they are sitting on benches as if they are watching football, you know, UEFA Championship. You understand? And they're able to do the best of business, to bring the best of policies that actually benefit their people. You are here. Look at the chairs that you are sitting. Honorable, I slightly disagree with you. The chairs that you said if you sit in, your body is paining you.
You don't sit on them. They've been there for long.
Yeah, some people want it even in their homes, and they will call themselves rich. But I understand. You know, where did we also get the chairs? It's not from China. And how? Do you remember the year we did that?
Yeah.
You understand? It is not even up to 30 years. Or 20 years. Well, we can say 20 years. But look at the chairs. And then, in fact, Ghana's Parliament House, or that chamber is a very luxurious place. Last Sunday I was there. You know, the workshop, the budget workshop. I was there. And I sat even at the public gallery there. I said, wow. You understand? Very comfortable place. So you sit there and you talk, we have political class, and sometimes our health should not be this. Are you saying that you don't even trust the secrecy? You know, the what is the name of that oath that our medical doctors swear?
The oath of confidentiality.
Are you saying you don't trust? You see, I think we have to get to a point where no political official will travel outside the country for medical attention. You understand? Then they will think of doing, making sure that our medical system, our health system is very robust. Look at Ken Oforiatta. He is there doing, trying to get medical attention. Because he has the money. What about you and I who cannot afford even a simple air ticket? Or even just securing a visa is a difficult thing. If God does not save you and you are hit with one of these terminal ailments, it means that you have to tell your parents how they should shape your grave. Sorry, your people, your family members, how they should shape your grave. Because there's no way you can afford what they are affording now. We have UG's, University of Ghana Medical Center here. Top class. And like you rightly said, the clinic at the Parliament House is not naive in terms of emergency management. You understand? And so they have been able to make emergency arrangement with all these. And this UGCMC, whatever, is just about 8 kilometers away from the Parliament House. So what emergency can they handle? You are talking of medical hospital. When even ordinary cheap compound in villages is a problem. The basic school we just spoke about. My brother, if you go to some of these villages, just go to Oibi. There is one basic school over there. Oibi. You go there in class 6. About 150 students are in class 6. And then one desk, very short desk, 5 people are struggling to sit. So you see somebody jostling the bottles like this and then trying to write. Oh, we have so much problem that the political class should stop worrying our ears with things that will benefit them. What haven't we given to them? As soon as they go to the Parliament House there, every parliamentary term, there is car loan. Of course, you will pay for it back. But apart from that, there are so many benefits that we have given them just to make their lives comfortable to do the job for us. I'm not saying that they don't deserve it, but I think we have done enough for them. It is up to them also to actually return the favor we've done to them. Otherwise, so you see why when it is election time, they are killing themselves to get to the Parliament House. If there is no benefit in terms of public office or the Parliament House there, why would they kill themselves? If you want to come and serve me, and they will hide under the statement that, I want to serve my people. Honorable, when they were campaigning, that is the word that they were using. I want to say, if you want to serve me, and I say I don't want you to serve me, why should it be a bother? But because of the benefit. Look, it was so annoying listening to him on such a statement. And I think the majority leader did justice to that. So I don't need to speak that much. He told him emphatically what the people of Ghana will actually perceive and handle, the comment or the point that he raised on the floor of Parliament. Yeah.
Thank you. Our time is up. It's exactly 10 o'clock a.m. And so we have to go. We need to make time for the next show. I want to thank you so much, Honorable, for your time this morning, and also to you, Doc, for your time. It's been a pleasure. To you, our cherished viewers, for always tuning into the show. It's been a great Wednesday edition of Good Morning Africa. I'll see you tomorrow. Until then, do have a pleasant day. Bye-bye.